Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, so this chapter opens up in a really cool way. Because, alright, we got in the very first page, AMD just basically yelling at Asta to get up and kill Dante and Lucifer because of how enraged he is over the fact that the two of them lost. And I really like the way that the takes the entire page to basically depict exactly how, like, pissed off and insane AMD is in this moment. Because, alright, first of all, he's not even in his normal form. Usually when him and Asta meet up, you're seeing at least AMD's upper half, but instead in this page you only get to see like this giant shadowy face looming over Asta. It kind of reminds me of the Venom symbiote from early on in the comics. If you actually read like Marvel comics, how they used to depict him, it's kind of like that, and it's just like really intense and really scary. In fact, in one part of the page, it actually kind of looks like AMD's going to eat Asta. And speaking of Asta, you can actually kind of see that for the first time since the two of them have actually met, Asta actually kind of looks afraid of AMD in this page, because when we get to that actually like close up of him, his face looks like a combination of terror and that he's kind of drowning. Which, if you like scroll or like look to the left of the page as it goes on, you can actually do get to see like little images of Asta as he's falling down. So it's kind of like he's drowning in this like inner space that the two of them usually talking. But besides that, the other reason why you can tell that AMD is just like so insane is because of the fact that usually when him and Asta are face to face, he's spending the entire time trying to either convince or force Asta to get like basically hand over his body so that he can take control. But instead, in the entire interaction the two of them have in this first page, AMD is basically just saying kill it, over and over again. And the way AMD is acting in this first page kind of supports my idea as to why he said what he said to Zagred back in chapter 212. Because, and I mentioned this before, my theory is that basically AMD, being a lower ranked demon, has a real grudge against the higher ranked ones like Zagred and Lucifer. And that's pretty much the reason why back in chapter 212 he said what he said, was basically kind of mocking the fact that him being a lower ranked demon was able to defeat a higher ranked one like Zagred. And I think that's the reason why he's acting the way he's acting in this chapter, because him losing to Dante and Lucifer after basically getting that high from defeating Zagred and thinking that he might be untouchable with his anti-magic abilities combined with Asta's strength, them losing in chapter, what was it, chapter 244, must have been a huge blow to his ego, and he just can't handle it. And you know, I wonder if basically the way AMD's acting in this chapter is kind of foreshadowing that maybe because of their loss, by the end of this arc, him and Asta might end up having kind of like a similar relationship that the Dark Triad seem to have with their demons. Because I'm thinking that since AMD's main goal is to prove that him being a lower ranked demon is capable of defeating the higher ranked ones, since they lost to Dante and Lucifer, maybe he will be more willing to work with Asta in order to basically get the revenge against them. Because we all know that pretty much no matter what happens in this fight, whether, you know, Dante loses to Yami, Dante's not done yet. He is pretty much one of the main villains of this arc. So when they eventually end up fighting Dante and Lucifer again later on, the two of them, if they want to stand a chance, are really going to have to find a way to cooperate. Just basically, like I said, the same way that Dante and Lucifer, Megikulo and Vanica and Zeno and his demon do right now. But anyway, yeah, the chapter pretty much opens up with Asta waking up. And I actually thought that since he was waking up in the beginning of the chapter, we'd kind of bookend it with him getting back into the fight. But he seems to be suffering the same kind of effects that he used to have when he originally learned how to use his black form, where he basically, his body is too drained for him to really do anything anymore. So we're not seeing him back in the fight just yet. And I have a feeling that if we don't see him get up and get back into the fight by the end of the next chapter, then he's pretty much out for the rest of it, regardless of how it ends, whether Yami gets kidnapped or if Yami and the rest of the Black Wolves are able to hold Dante off to the point where he has to flee. Regardless of what ends up happening, I don't see, if Asta doesn't get up by the end of the next chapter, him getting back into the fight. Now, the first thing Asta does as soon as he wakes up is basically he uses his ability to sense ki, and he basically uses it to confirm the fact that Gouch is still alive, which I guess is basically there to confirm for us, the readers, that yeah, he is still alive, in case there was anyone who did have any doubts about that. And secondly, he tried to figure out whether or not Dante is still around in the area, which he does find out that yeah, he is there, but he also realizes that Captain Yami is there as well. So, you know, there's a little bit of relief by the fact that their captain is there and he's facing off against Dante. And you know what, speaking of Yami, it's actually kind of funny because as soon as we get back to the fight, it's picking up exactly where it left off in the last chapter with Yami using that brand new move. And we can see Yami's reaction to the fact that he actually was able to slash Dante in the chest. And he's being really cocky about the fact that he actually did manage to land a severe hit on him. And it's just really interesting seeing Yami be this cocky over just landing one attack. But it doesn't seem like it really did that much damage to Dante, or I can't say no, it actually did do a lot of damage to him. But it ultimately ended up not really mattering because Dante ends up using his demon, his Lucifer's magic in order to heal himself. And it's this very like grotesque way. It was like the flesh is kind of like bending over itself to heal. It's very disgusting looking. I originally thought that maybe he was like using gravity magic as a way to like collapse his body to seal the wound, but he does confirm that he's using, you know, Lucifer's magic. And I feel like a lot of fans are actually going to react the same way that Vanessa did in this chapter by the fact that he can use different magic besides gravity magic, because we never really seen anyone use something like that before. And I think a lot of fans kind of see the devil possession as it's kind of being the same as having a contract with one of the four great spirits, that in order to have a contract with them you need to have the same kind of magical element that they use, like Salamander and fire, Udine and water, Bell and wind. But it becomes pretty clear with this chapter that that's not exactly how demon possession works. When it comes to demon possession, the person that's possessed by the demon not only gets like a boost to their own magical element, but they also get access to their demon's magical abilities. And you know, it's fair that most people wouldn't have thought of this. I originally figured that was pretty much the case, but it would be fair for most people not to think this, just because of the fact that we don't exactly have any prior examples to a situation like this. The only other character that we had, obviously, who's demon possessed is Asta, and he has no original magical abilities besides the demon's anti-magical abilities, which he has access to. And when it came to Zagred, we did see him temporarily possess an elf, but we didn't see that elf use any magical abilities. In fact, Zagred didn't use any magic himself, even when he was possessed by when he was possessing the elf. We get this giant panel on this one page that basically gives us Dante's entire backstory, which I'm surprised we're getting so much information about Dante in this fight. And yet, when it came to Zeno and his fight against Yuno and the Golden Dawn, we got no information from him. We don't even know what his demon's called yet. And basically what we end up finding out about Dante in this flashback is that he seemed to be kind of bored with life before he became a member of the Dark Triad. Because, I mean, if you look at it from the first panel we get in this, like, giant panel, or this, like, first part of the flashback, we see that he was killing animals at a very early age, but it didn't seem like he was enjoying that. We saw him having sex with some woman, or, you know, the aftermath of it, and it seemed like he was very upset and bored by it. We see him being, like, celebrating, it looks like joining some kind of military, probably the Spade Kingdom's military. Doesn't seem to enjoy that at all, despite the fact that his companions are celebrating. We see him after killing off a whole bunch of other, I guess, magic knights, or wizards, you know, from a different country. Doesn't seem like he enjoyed that. And then we get to see a panel of basically kind of like how we saw in Yuno's flashback, the castle of the Spade Kingdom on fire. And then the final panel from the flashback is Yuno's dad, the Spade Kingdom king, dead on the ground. And it seemed like no matter what Dante was doing, he didn't really find any enjoyment. And that's pretty much the reason why Dante's doing any of this, because of the fact that he doesn't really find any real enjoyment. He's bored with life. And he thinks that by opening up the world to demons, letting them pour in, that he's going to be able to find some kind of like enjoyment, because of the fact that he enjoys evil intentions, he enjoys malice. And he thinks that, you know, like I said, by letting demons into the world, it'll fill it with malice, fill his life with malice, and he'll be able to finally enjoy being alive. And that is the most batshit crazy reason as to why anyone will do anything. But I'm okay with the fact that Dante's reason for doing what he's doing is so simple. If when we end up finding out what Zeno and Vanica's reasons as to why they're joining up with the Dark Triad and doing what they're doing is a little bit more complex. I mean, it doesn't really have to be with Vanica. I can tell that with Vanica is probably not going to be anywhere near as complex as I want it to be. But with the way that Zeno's been acting, the way that he seems to be the most serious member of the Dark Triad, I can tell he's going to have a really serious reason as to why he's doing what he's doing. So as long as his reason is, you know, very serious, like a real reason besides I'm bored, I will be really okay with Vanica and Dante having the reasons that they do. Now, Dante actually does kind of clarify why in the last chapter he called Yami the key to opening up the door. And it's not that far off of what I originally thought, because originally my theory was that And since the Yami's magic can cut through space and time, like Dante said in the last chapter, that they're planning on using his magic abilities, his dark magic, to open up a doorway for demons to pour in through. And that the reason why they were seemingly after arcane stage mages was because of the fact that they need their like unique mana or unique abilities in order to combine with Yami's dark magic in order to give him the power to activate that door. And it seems like I was a little bit off. Instead of needing a whole bunch of arcane stage mages, it seems like he only needs William and Yami. And the reason why he needs the two of them is because his plan is basically to use the tree of Yggdrasil to open up a doorway for, like I said, demons to basically pour into the human world from. And I did a little bit of research on the tree of Yggdrasil, not that much, but just enough to talk about it, at least in this chapter video. And basically what I ended up finding out is that the tree of Yggdrasil, through its branches, kind of connect different worlds and different realities to each other. And in Norse mythology, it seems like they actually use the tree of Yggdrasil not only as a meeting place for the gods, but as a way to travel between the different worlds and realities. So their plan actually does kind of make a little bit of sense if you think that maybe the tree of Yggdrasil connects the human world from one branch to the demon world on another one. So basically what their plans are is to use William to summon the tree, and then combine it somehow with Yami's dark magic in order to create a portal between the two worlds. And you know what, I actually like this explanation of what their plan is, because this also explains why Zeno didn't end up taking Yuno with him, despite realizing that Yuno actually is an arcane stage mage. But at the same time, when I got done reading this explanation as to what their plan was, my only thought was that Tabata must have been playing a lot of God of War on the PS4. Because if I remember correctly from my playthrough of that game, you actually do use the tree of Yggdrasil to travel between different realities. But anyway, after that, we end up cutting away from the fight entirely, and instead of going back to the Heart Kingdom to, you know, catch up on that fight, see what's going on with that, instead we head over to the Spade Kingdom, or at least inside the Spade Kingdom, because right now the Blackwell headquarters is actually right outside of it. But anyway, we head inside of it, and we see these two random soldiers, and they're talking, and they mention the fact that there actually is a spy from the Clover Kingdom hidden in the ranks, and everyone seemingly knows it, but no one knows exactly who the spy is. So they kind of are treating it like just like a faint rumor, like something that's not really that important. But then we cut over and we actually do see that there actually is a spy. He's going through like Dante's notes in his rooms, and someone actually does catch him and try to attack him. And we see the spy actually fade away in the shadows, like he disappears completely. Then he comes back in the shadow behind the person who was attacking him and drags him down, kind of like in a shadowy portal. And then we see him walking away. And the last shot we get from the chapter is seeing that the satchel that the spy has on his waist that holds his grimoire has the Black Bull insignia on it. So yeah, it looks like we're actually going to be getting introduced to a brand new character and a brand new member of the team. And we know it has to be a new character and a new member because of the fact that, well, this person at the end of the chapter uses shadow magic, and as far as we're aware, we have not been introduced to a character who can use that type of magic. And it definitely can't be any of the Black Bulls, because the only person who has similar type of magic would be Yami, who's currently fighting against Dante. So it can't be him right now in the Spade Kingdom, besides the fact that this person actually very obviously has a very different physique to what Yami's is. Now you could argue that, you know, this person could be using spatial magic, but the only member of the Black Bulls who can use spatial magic is Finral, who's also currently in the same area that Yami is watching the fight. Now, I mean, that being said, if we are going with the idea that maybe it's Tabata drawing spatial magic in like a shadowy form, potentially it could end up being Valtos. We could end up finding out that maybe Valtos and Sally and the other members of the criminal gang actually do end up joining up with the Black Bulls, because realistically they're the only crew that would end up taking them. But again, as far as we can tell, this person's using shadow magic, not spatial magic, so it would have to be a brand new character. And I also saw some people commenting that maybe this person we see at the end of the chapter is actually the vice captain of the Black Bulls. And when it comes to that idea, I'm not really gonna, you know, pay too much attention to it. I've been kind of going with the idea that maybe the Black Bulls don't actually have a vice captain, because I remember back when Henry was first introduced, and I saw a lot of people commenting that he is the vice captain of the Black Bulls, and I got really excited with that idea. And then it was never confirmed by Tabata. So I'm just gonna go along with the idea that maybe the Black Bulls don't actually have a vice captain until we actually do get introduced to one. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the video. That's it for the chapter. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I will catch you guys next week. Peace.